I want to start out with a little scenario, and then I have a question for you. Let's say you recently had a medical situation and you had to go to the hospital. Well, now you're doing fine, and one day you walk out to your mailbox, and what do you see? This, the hospital bill. What is your immediate gut reaction when you see that bill? If it's something along the lines of, well, you're not alone. I recently asked a group of people that question, and in unison, they all said, and I can relate, because when I see a hospital bill, I kind of hesitate when I'm opening it, because I'm thinking to myself, great, how much is this going to cost me? Well, surprisingly, shockingly, I actually have good news about hospital bills here in Oregon. There was a law that recently went into effect that can provide you a discount if you're eligible on your hospital bills. You can get anywhere from 25% to 100% off of your portion of a hospital bill. So that's after insurance and all adjustments have been made. And here's the best part. This discount is available for a wide range of income levels, including middle-class incomes. Now, most people I talk with are middle class, because that's most of us, anywhere from lower middle class to upper middle class. And something that people share with me is their frustration with the fact that even though they feel like they make a good income, it doesn't seem quite enough to provide for everything their family needs. And on the other hand, they're told they're not eligible for any assistance because they make too much money. So this law does a great job in addressing that, the pinched middle class. If you live in Oregon, you are definitely going to want to know about this bill. And if you don't live in Oregon, maybe you want to watch this video anyway. Find out what's going on here. All right, let me take you back to my office now, where I'm going to share with you the details of what you need to know about this new law. Well, welcome to my studio. I'm going to share with you exactly what this new law in Oregon can do for you. It's based on House Bill 3320, and there's 3 key things that I think you'll want to know. First, are you eligible for the discount? And if so, exactly how much would your discount be? Second, which hospitals does this law apply to? Because it doesn't apply to all of them. Third, how do you get the discount? Okay, let's start out with the first piece, eligibility. Am I eligible? And if so, how much would my discount be? I'm going to share some information with you that you can use to figure out whether or not you're eligible, and if so, how much your discount would be. What I did is I made a chart for you based on the information in the law. Now, this chart is going to look a little confusing at first, but then I'll share some additional information and it'll start to come together. Let's take a look at this together. So this law, like many, uses the federal poverty guidelines as the baseline to figure out what your discount can be. And you can see just in an overview of this chart that it goes all the way up to 400% of the federal poverty guidelines. So that gets into middle class income levels. I'm going to walk through this chart with you, and then I'll give you additional information with a real world example with dollar figures. So if you have an income that's 200% or less of the federal poverty guidelines, you would get a 100% discount on your eligible hospital bills. So you wouldn't know anything. If your household income is between 200 to 300%, you're looking at a minimum of a 75% discount. Then we have the last 2 discounts, where your income is between 300 to 350% of federal poverty guidelines. You're looking at a minimum of a 50% discount. And then we have the final discount, which is incomes between 350 to 400% of the federal poverty guidelines. You're looking at a minimum of a 25% discount. Now, you may notice in looking at this chart that it says a minimum of 25% discount, 50% discount, 75% discount. So why is the word minimum in there? Well, that's because the law requires the hospitals to give these discount levels at different income levels, but it doesn't stop them from being more generous if they choose to. And I can tell you that they are. Someone shared with me that she's eligible for a 50% discount, but the hospital where she received care actually gave her a discount of 60%. So the hospitals aren't just following the letter of the law, they're actually going beyond it to make sure you get the financial assistance you need. Now let's look at a real-world example with actual dollar figures so this will make more sense. Let's take a family of 4. We'll have 2 adults, 2 kids, and let's give them an income of $114,000. Okay, where did I come up with that number from? Well, the most recent median income for a family of 4 was $114,000. So what that means is that family falls right in the middle of incomes for that household size. Half of the families had less than $114,000, half had more than $114,000. This family sits right in the middle. Okay, now let's pull up another chart that I made for you with the actual dollar figures plugged in. And if you look at this chart, you can see that that family of 4 falls into receiving an adjustment of a discount with a minimum of 25% off their hospital bills. Now, something I want to share with you is the actual discount levels have been Oregon law since 2019 and operative since 2021. However, there was a big problem. The hospitals were not following the law. And so this new law was needed to enforce it and make sure that you get the discount that you're eligible for. Now, to figure out your discount, what you're going to do is look underneath this video for a link that I've put to the most recent federal poverty guidelines for 2025. And when you pull those up, what you can do is look for your household size and look for your household income and see if you fit within 400% or less of those federal poverty guidelines. If they do, you get a discount and you can figure out exactly how much your discount would be. Now at this point, some of you may have stopped the video and gone and looked to see if you're eligible for a discount. And if you haven't, feel free to go ahead and stop the video and do that. I'll still be here. And others of you may be saying, Bella, this is really great, but honestly, I have always had a very comfortable income. There's no way I'd be eligible for this. Now, I'm not a doomsdayer by any means, but there have been some major changes in our economy in the last year or so. We've seen layoffs throughout the country. We've seen layoffs here in Oregon, and you are probably reading or hearing about them every week. I'll list just a few of them for you. Intel, Nike, OHSU, UPS, Wells Fargo, list goes on. And they have been very heavy in the high-tech sector here in Oregon. Let me give you an example of how those layoffs could affect you and make you eligible for a discount if you weren't before. Let's go back to that family of 4. Let's have these 2 adults with one working in the semiconductor industry and one working in some other field. Most recent average wage in the semiconductor industry was $180,000. In other fields, $80,000. So this family has a combined income of $260,000. Now let's say, sadly, the person in the semiconductor industry has been laid off. Now they're on unemployment. Well, in Oregon, the unemployment currently maxes out at $872 a week. That's $45,000 annually. Now, Oregon unemployment does max out at 26 weeks, but just for the sake of this example, I'm annualizing the number. So now this family that had a $260,000 income now has an income of $125,000. And I'm going to pull up that chart that I made for you, and let's take a look. Now that family is eligible for a discount. So that's why I want you to know about this law. With all the layoffs going on in Oregon, I think it's really important that everyone know about this law. Even if in the past you had an income that made you ineligible, or even if currently you're not eligible, none of us know what the future brings. And so whether it's for yourself or maybe somebody you know, this is really good information to have. Now that I've shared with you how to figure out your eligibility, let's move on to part 2, which is which hospitals does this law apply to? Which hospitals and hospital systems does this law apply to? It doesn't apply to all of them. It just applies to the nonprofit hospitals in Oregon. I'm going to pull up a list of all the licensed hospitals here in Oregon. By my count, I get 65 licensed hospitals. Well, guess what? Of those 65 hospitals, only 2 are for-profit hospitals. So this law applies to the vast majority of hospitals here in Oregon. Now, you probably want to know which are the 2 it doesn't apply to, and I'll read you their names. The 2 it doesn't apply to are McKenzie-Willamette Medical Center in Springfield and Willamette Valley Medical Center in McMinnville. Now, it doesn't mean that those 2 hospitals don't provide financial assistance. It just means that they don't have to follow the rules of this law. They make their own financial assistance policies. So if you want to find out what their financial assistance is, you either have to go on their website or you have to contact their billing departments directly. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I am going to talk about all of the other many hospitals that this law does apply to. So let's move on to the third piece that I promised you, which is, how do you actually get the discount? What do you need to do to actually get the discount? Theoretically, you don't have to do a thing. That's right. This law requires the hospitals to do the work to see if you're eligible for a discount. They need to use third-party verification systems to determine if your income makes you eligible for discount. There's 3 situations where they have to do this, and I'm going to tell you about those in a moment. But first, let me tell you why they have to do this. In the past, before HB 3320 became law, you as the patient had to contact the hospital you were seen at and ask for an application to see if you were eligible for financial assistance. Well, why is that a problem? We apply for things all the time. Here's why it was an issue. The application process was cumbersome, it was tedious, and here's the worst part. Some of the hospitals were actually asking you for information that they were not supposed to in order to determine if you were eligible for a discount. Many people ended up having bills go to collections, ended up in bankruptcy because they were not given a discount that they were entitled to. This is not an issue now because this new law codified how the hospitals have to go about giving you the discount that you're eligible for. There's 3 criteria where the hospitals have to pre-screen you. The first area is if you do not have health insurance. That applies to very few of us here in Oregon because 97% of us in Oregon have health insurance. So the first one, that doesn't affect most of us. Then there's situation number 2. The hospitals have to pre-screen you if you're enrolled in a state medical assistance program. We're talking about Medicaid, and in Oregon, that's called the Oregon Health Plan. If your health insurance is through the Oregon Health Plan, then you would automatically be pre-screened now. Then there's the third criteria, and this is the one you're going to want to know about. If you have a hospital bill that is $500 or more, after all insurance, after all adjustments have been made, then the hospitals have to pre-screen you. Now think about, even if you have fantastic insurance, by the time you have a deductible, co-pays, co-insurance, you're probably looking at a bill over $500. I know that's been the case for my family. So this is the piece that's going to apply to almost all of us. Now, something I want to tell you is that the hospitals are now following the law. I've had people share with me that they've gotten letters from OHSU, from Providence, from Legacy, letting them know that they are going to get a discount on their hospital bill. Now, you may wonder, if the hospitals are required to pre-screen me, why am I even watching this video, Bella? I have 2 reasons for you, and they are very important. The first is actually a question. Are systems infallible? I have a feeling if you think about the last year in your life, and maybe even the last month or last week, you can think of a situation where some information about you was incorrect. Probably something financial, or maybe it was medical. I know I've had this over and over and over again, where systems are supposed to have the correct information, they don't. So I believe it is very likely that even with the best of intentions, even with the hospitals fully complying with the law, there are people who aren't going to have their information correct in these third-party verification systems and might end up being screened out of getting financial assistance. Then there's the second reason, and this goes back to what I was talking about in the very beginning of the video about layoffs. If you had an income that was above getting financial assistance before, and now you've had a layoff, your new income is probably not in the system. And so what you're going to need to do in either of these cases is contact the hospital where you were seen at and ask them to do a screening for you. Because of how this new law is written, they are probably going to make it very easy for you. You should be able to do it over the phone, and they should make it simple and easy. Now that I have shared those 3 areas that I promised you, I have one additional thing I want to say to you. If you are eligible for the discount, take it. Now, there's something in our culture where we don't believe in accepting help. We believe in doing everything ourselves. And I don't think that's a bad way to be. I believe we've been given a mind, we've been given a body, and we should use everything we've been given to do our best in all aspects of our life. But there's also a time to accept help. And this may be that moment for you. So if you're feeling some shame or embarrassment that you're eligible for a discount and you've never in your life had to accept any help, I want you to hear me saying to you, it is okay to take this help. This is a moment in time where you are getting some assistance that you need. If you've just been through something major medical, you're probably recovering from that health situation. Why add to that by creating financial stress for yourself? Take the discount. After watching this video, if you have any questions, go ahead and post those in the comments section and I'll definitely respond. Now I want to share with you why this is called Bring It to Bella. Sometimes you bring me questions. That's actually how this episode started. Someone brought me a letter that they had received from their hospital letting them know that they were going to receive a discount on their hospital bill. And they asked me, Bella, I'm really happy to get this. I live alone. I don't have any other income besides my own. And I'm so grateful, but I didn't apply for anything. Why am I getting a discount? I went ahead and researched and found out why. And that's how we got this video. Other times, you bring me your wisdom. I love reading the interesting things you post in the comment section. So I want to invite you, if you have some thoughts about this subject, post them in the comment section. What do you think about this new law? What's been your past experience with hospital bills? Bring me your questions. Bring me your wisdom. Bring it.
Bring it. Bring it.
Bring it.
Bring it to Bella.
Thank you for spending time with me today.